Welcome back. All right, so I have talked about contracts in the West and the ones that I feel are the best on the team or the not so best as well. And today we're going to talk about the East, going from Boston through Washington. I'm wearing my Swayman jersey. For a particular reason, well, we'll see. So we're going to go from Boston through Washington. So we'll start with Boston. And for Boston, they are the only team that I have picked two bad contracts for. $7.75 million cap hit for Elias Lindholm. And, of course, for Swayman, $8.25 million. And I want Swayman's contract to not stand out as one that's not great. I want Swayman to have a bounce-back year. I absolutely think he can. But that being said, that cap hit is high. So, I'll use this. All right. So for the good contract, the cheap contract, as it were, the good cap hit, I'm going with Geeky, $5.5 million. I think that's a bargain considering how well he played this past season. We'll see if it's still a bargain this year or not. But that $16 million tied up in Elias Lindholm and Jeremy Swayman, even with the salary cap going up, it doesn't end up looking all that great for Boston. All right, now Buffalo. For Buffalo, the contract that I'm putting on the not so great end of things is Josh Norris. Norris has a cap hit of $7.95 million. Now, the good news for the Sabres and their fans is if Norris bounces back and has the kind of season he can have, then Norris's cap hit is a bargain. But he has trouble with staying healthy. He hasn't been as productive the last couple of seasons. We'll see how things go there. And then on the cheaper side of things, Tage Thompson. The Sabres are basically robbing him by him only having a $7.14 million cap hit. Tage Thompson, easily right now, I think with the way the NHL pay structure's gone, I think $10 million if he was on the market right now. He is a 44 goal scorer this past season. He could score 50 this coming season. I think for $7.14 million, that's a pretty good price. On the Carolina side, Carolina doesn't have a lot in the way of contracts that are high. So Kotkaniemi at $4.82 million, that's high. He may very well get a chance to play higher up in the lineup, at least to start the season, see if he can get things going in his direction. I liked Kotkaniemi early on in his career. I just haven't seen much from him recently to make me think that $4.82 million is going to age all that well. But the good news is that he is paid. He's paid almost the same as Slavin when you think about it. $6.4 million cap hit for Jacob Slavin. So that's what, about $1.5 million difference in cap hit between Kotkaniemi and Slavin. That's insane. So Slavin's cap hit is a giant bargain. I think it helps that he's a defensive defenseman mostly. And he also was likely willing to sign for a little bit less to play for Carolina so they could go out and get other players. Players do that. So, yeah, Jacob Slavin, huge bargain at $6.4 million as a cap hit. For the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team that does not have a lot of bad contracts, a lot of expensive contracts, Merzlikins has a cap hit of $5.4 million. It's still high. That's still high. The good news is they've got a bargain contract with Kent Johnson. Kent Johnson's contract, it is a $1.8 million cap hit for Kent Johnson. And that's why you sign your young players sooner rather than later, because some of those contracts end up looking like huge bargains. So, yeah, Kent Johnson at $1.8 million. I think he'll get a raise on his next contract, but it was a really smart move for Columbus to sign him for that amount of money because he looks like a huge bargain at this point in time for them. For Detroit, well, for a bad contract, there are a couple I could have picked from Detroit. I didn't pick Hall, for anybody wondering. I did pick Kopp, $5.63 million cap hit. I am still a fan of Andrew Kopp. It has not gone all that well in Detroit. I will acknowledge that. On the cheaper side, there were a few I looked at because I honestly don't think the cap hit that most players have in Detroit is bad. But Moritz Seider at $8.55 million, that's going to age really well. And he is signed for a while. So that Seider contract should age like a fine cider, I guess. Right? Sure. Can't age de-age. Can you age Seider? I guess you could. But at any rate, Moritz Seider at $8.55 million. I think that's a pretty good deal the Detroit Red Wings have got for themselves there. Florida, finding a bad contract with Florida, so the closest I can get, considering regular season numbers, I'm going to put this with a question mark. Bennett. Maybe you can argue Sam Bennett at $8 million is high for his regular season numbers. You just have to take that Conn Smythe out of the way. It gets really dodgy really, really fast. Look, Florida doesn't have bad contracts. And people are going to say, taxes, taxes, taxes. I mean, taxes are a consideration, sure, but some of these guys are getting paid like $2-3 million below what they could make in other locations. I don't think that all of that money would be going to taxes, depending on where they go and everything, but yeah, I think Florida is really good at signing contracts. That's part of it. And when you're winning, that definitely helps. Now, in terms of the biggest bargain contract, and again, I had to kind of think over a few things, I'm giving that to Gustav Forsling at $5.75 million cap hit for Forsling. So I don't really see a bad cap hit with Florida. I don't. I guess Bennett's the closest you might get, only because during the regular season, it may not justify the $8 million. It's hard to find one for them. Montreal. Is everybody mad at me about? Okay, so Brendan Gallagher at $6.5 million for Montreal, I think is a little bit high, considering he's mostly a bottom six forward at this point in his career. I do understand that he brings a lot to the table, and he was part of how they got back to the playoffs. I'm sure his leadership helped. But again, at $6.5 million, it does feel high at this stage. On the bargain side, I can't put Carey Price. He's not playing. But Price's replacement is on a very team-friendly $3.15 million cap hit. Montembeault, excellent cap hit for Montembeault. I like his game a lot. He had, whether you're looking at the regular stats or the advanced stats, Montembeault had an excellent season. So, to me, Sam Montembeault at $3.15 million. That's some good work by Kent Hughes to get that done. Pretty sure that's a Kent Hughes contract. New Jersey. New Jersey's not a team that's in any kind of cap trouble at this stage. Palat's $6 million cap hit stands out. I considered Meyer. I did, but Palat's, I think, stands out a little bit more at $6 million. And Meyer's still, playing pretty well and still pretty productive. And then on the side of definitely a steal of a contract, it has to be Nico Hischier at $7.25 million. That cap hit for Nico Hischier is borderline criminal. I think it's up in the Slavin category, and it shows. I think one thing that's interesting with NHL contracts, you get paid for offense. You get paid for scoring. The defense is important too, and you can make some good money playing defensively, but the big money is in the guys that get the goals and the assists and the points and all. And it doesn't matter forward or defenseman. It feels like that's where a lot of the money goes. Has to be tough for the guys who play the defensive game and shut those guys down, to know that they're going to make less money shutting those guys down than the guys would if otherwise. Anyways, it's just a thought. New York Islanders. The Islanders, a team that does have. I don't want to put him up here, but I have to. Barzal's coming off of a rough year in that he had 20 points in 30 games. $9.15 million cap hit. At times, Barzal looks like he's a forward that's a star forward, and he's worth that $9.15 million. Other times, not so much. His name's come up in trade rumors. I don't know how many teams would take on that $9.15 million without making sure he's 100%. And even then, I don't know, that 9.1, it's a lot of money. So that's my pick for the expensive contract. The bargain to me is Sorokin. And interestingly enough, Sorokin's cap hit of $8.25 million is the same as Swayman's. But Sorokin is the New York Islanders a lot of the time. A lot of the time, if the Islanders win a game, it's, hey, Sorokin saved 38 out of 38, and they win the game 1-0, that kind of thing. So, yeah, Ilya Sorokin to me is a bargain at $8.25 million, and it's not a contract that's expiring this year either, so it's just going to get to be more and more of a bargain as time goes by. The New York Rangers. Well, the Rangers were easy to find the one that's expensive. I think that this will be a surprise to no one. And it's interesting, too, because I like Mika Zibanejad. I think he's a good forward. I think he's had a really rough last couple of years. I don't know if he's going to pull out of it. He's young enough that he could. I don't know if he will. But Zibanejad's contract, his cap hit at $8.5 million. That does feel high considering the production and the struggles that he's had. On the cheaper side, I'm giving that to Trocheck. Considering he would definitely, in my opinion, be the one that's going to be the next captain. They have not named a captain as of yet. His cap hit of $5.63 million. It's a nice cap hit. I think the New York Rangers are in pretty good shape with Trocheck as their captain, very likely anyways. And that's a good one. I thought of Fox as well, but I'm going with Trocheck on this one. I think Trocheck on the open market now would draw probably about 7.5. For Ottawa, this is interesting because basically the Sabres and the Sens traded contracts in that the Sabres get Norris's contract and Dylan Cousins' contract goes to Ottawa. Now, Cousins had a better run with Ottawa than he did with Buffalo, but the combined picture, Cousins is looking to bounce back from what weren't great numbers this past season. $7.1 million cap hit means that Ottawa doesn't have any egregious contracts at this point in time. They have some really good contracts. Now, I do think that Sanderson and Shabbat are bargains on the blue line considering when the salary cap is gone. However, my pick for the bargain contract, and I almost picked Brady Tkachuk, but it's got to be Stützle at $8.35 million. Stützle had an amazing year with the Ottawa Senators this past season, and I think it's just the start of the great things that are to come for this player. So there are a lot of good contracts in Ottawa. I really think that right now we're seeing, because the salary cap has risen, a lot of contracts aging really well. There are some that won't, but a lot of contracts are aging well. And this should lead to more player movement over the next 12 months. That being said, we're in the summer. I expected player movement this summer. It really hasn't happened. So, there you go. For Philadelphia, I went back and forth on a couple of players, but it has to be Fedotov. Fedotov at a $3.28 million cap hit, considering his numbers have been bad. And the eye test, not great either. He's one of those goaltenders that if you want to argue in the positive, you can say, hey, yeah, he had that one goal in the second period that wasn't that great. But did you see those saves in the third? He was pretty good. I mean, he allowed 3 on 18 shots. But if you take that one away, and I've seen that argument, and I do appreciate that there are fans who say, hey, he one bad goal, and this is not of Fedotov, this is of goaltenders in general, but the really good goaltenders don't allow that goal. So that to me is the difference between really good goaltenders and the ones that are maybe fringe NHLers, and Fedotov at $3.28 million is putting up fringe NHLer numbers. Now, on the cheap side, I'm going with Forrester. Forrester's cap hit is $3.75 million. That's a bargain for what Forrester brings. I think Forrester is going to get a pretty hefty raise when that contract is done. And up until then, Philadelphia has a bargain on their hands. So some mixed results when it comes to Philadelphia when you look at their contracts. But in general, a lot of them are okay. Ristolainen's one that gets brought up as a high cap hit. Obviously, Couturier at this point in time is a bit of a high cap hit, but I had to go with Fedotov. For Pittsburgh, I could make everybody mad and say Crosby's the one that's expensive, but I'm not. The one that's expensive has to be Jarry. I did consider Erik Karlsson. I did. But I think Tristan Jarry, a goaltender who was in the AHL, was it twice last season he was in the AHL or just the one time? Either way, Jarry really struggled to get his game together. And with that $5.38 million cap hit, he cleared through waivers without any consideration by teams. Crosby is the definite winner of probably one of the biggest bargain contracts in the National Hockey League. Crosby at $8.7 million cap hit. That's insane. He is one of the best forwards in the history of the game, and he does not get paid like it. And he doesn't ask to get paid like it. He hasn't demanded more money. And the weird part is that when he signed the really long-term contract at $8.7 million per, He was one of the highest paid players in the league at that time, I believe. Might have been the highest paid player at the time he signed the original deal. I think it was like a 12-year deal. But that contract went from high to bargain. So high price and then bargain, and it's still a bargain. So, yeah, good on him for not getting greedy and deciding to go elsewhere. For Tampa, okay, so for the high cap hit, he's still a good defenseman. But McDonough at $6.75 million. He is, I believe, 36 years of age. It's a little bit on the high side. This is part of the reason why Nashville traded out his contract. Of course, Nashville then signed Stamkos. Ends up being a pretty good trade-off because it allowed Tampa to get themselves Jake Gensel as well. And Tampa doesn't have a lot of contracts that might appear bad. So McDonough's up there in part because there just aren't any bad contracts. I almost could write the question mark with McDonough. In fact, I will. I'll put the question mark next to McDonough. Sure. Because I don't think it's an awful cap hit. I think it's fine. I don't think it's a great cap hit, but I don't think it's a bad one either. And then, yeah, for the bargain contract, Cirelli at $6.25 million. Anthony Cirelli, excellent two-way forward. May win a Selke at some point in his career, I guess. And rightfully so. Cirelli's an excellent forward. So it's $6.25 million for a cap hit. Yeah, I think most teams would be perfectly fine paying that to Cirelli. For Toronto, there we are. Toronto, I'm going to write this name up here. I don't think this is an awful cap hit, but Morgan Rielly at $7.5 million, considering the season he just had, wasn't necessarily his greatest. I do think that one stands out a little bit. And this may very well be, so for people who are like, why didn't Morgan Rielly get traded? That $7.5 million cap hit may be part of it. So if Toronto was trying to move him, if they were trying to shop him, and I don't know that they were or weren't, that $7.5 million cap hit would probably be an issue for some teams, and they probably want Toronto to take money back in that situation. On the other side, the contract just signed. I think this is a huge bargain. I know John Tavares is on the older side. I know that his play is likely gonna trail off at least a bit, but at $4.39 million for a cap hit, that's virtually highway robbery. That is an insane amount of money for Tavares, considering the season he just had. That he took that kind of a pay cut, crazy. But it shows that he is dedicated to the Leafs. He wants to play in Toronto, and that'll definitely help. That will not hurt. For the Washington Capitals, the Capitals were tough because they had a great season. And so you would think Dubois would go on the board, but I think Dubois gave them good value for his contract. So I'm going with a depth defenseman because I didn't really have a lot of options around this team that I thought were high. So I'm going with Trevor Van Riemsdyk at $3 million. And it's the last year of the contract. So that to me is as close as I could find to somebody who might be getting paid a little bit too much for Washington. And then on the other side of it, see, if you guys saw my paper, you'd understand why I'm having to look. It's not very well organized. But Alexei Protas. Protas, $3.38 million cap hit for Protas. I think that at the time that contract was signed, there was definitely some risk attached to it because he hadn't broke through yet. Well, now he's broken through, and now that contract's a huge bargain. So that's how quickly that can happen. That's how quickly a contract can go from bad to good. It's like for Swayman here, if he has a really strong season for Boston, all of a sudden the complaints about his contract quiet down. I don't think they go away, but I think they quiet down. And so we will see. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Which contract do you think is overpriced? Which contract do you think is a bargain? And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It does feel like there are fewer bad contracts in the NHL now than there were 9 years ago when I started covering the league. Especially the 2016 unrestricted free agency period. That was as ugly as this hat. It was some bad contracts handed out, and some GMs learned a lesson, and it looks like the whole league figured that out because we don't have as many contracts that on July the 1st we say, well, that's really high. That's insane. The sticker shock's going to be there because the cap's going up. but the bad contracts seem to be fewer and farther between. But let me know your thoughts on that topic as well. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.